Live from the Zoom studios, the 17 and Me Show, starring Ambassador Jeff Rivero, inviting you to join our special guest, Survivorman Les Stroud. And here we go!
Welcome to the 17 and Me Show, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals show. Our special guest on tonight's show is Les Stroud, Survivorman. You may have seen his series on Bigfoot, his music, or maybe even some of his books. Right now he's coming out with a new book, Wild Outside. He also has a cooking show called Mountain Harvest. I'm looking forward to asking him a question. Does he know what a bear's favorite dessert is? Blueberry pie. Why don't pine trees like the idea of computers? They hate the thought of logging on. We're going to have to ask Les tonight, has he seen Bigfoot? I bet you he says, not yeti. That's the last time I let you guys in here for free. And finally, did you hear the CDC report out today? They said that Bigfoot was a champion of social distancing. Can't wait to ask Les some questions about his new book, his series, and even some questions about danger. Catch you guys right after this commercial break from our sponsors, the United Nations.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
a 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
Wakes in the morning.
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets
At home,
At school.
and at work.
We will live in a world where
there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat,
light,
And power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
we will live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
Leads to decent jobs.
For everyone.
And we will live in a world
Where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
inside our countries,
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
Will restore
and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
animals,
The earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
and the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
to make these goals
A reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Well, we're back from sponsors break, the United Nations, and we're going to jump right in. Tonight's special guest is Les Stroud. He's a survivor man, chasing Bigfoot, filmmaker, musician, and author. Let's get started right off the jump. Let me ask you, what was your infrastructure to your background? What helped you lead you to where you're at today?
Yeah, and I think the word infrastructure is a really interesting way to place the question, because I hadn't heard it that way before. But if you look around at what your infrastructure is around you growing up, I mean, I don't want to paint any kind of a sob story by any stretch, but I came from a neighborhood that was very boring, but it was definitely low income. There were gangs, there was drugs. It was that makes it sound worse than it was, I suppose, in a way. But nonetheless, I came not from nothing, but I certainly came from very little. Mentorship and guidance, didn't have any, none. Not my father, not my mother, not adults around me, not even really the teachers in the school that I went to. That didn't exist. And so I had to turn inside myself to see what was there, to feel what was there. What did I want to do? My love for nature, everything from the ants in my backyard on the ground and the beetles and the birds to everything bigger, that just seemed to be there. But I would not know how to express it or how to get it. Later on, we ended up with a little cottage up north. And so that gave me an ecosystem, a more wild ecosystem I could experience a bit. But again, no guidance that way whatsoever. And what I actually utilized was television. I watched Jacques Cousteau, I watched Tarzan movies. And that seems like, what do you mean, TV to discover nature? Well, yeah, because it wasn't there for me in my backyard, really. I mean, it was in my backyard, but I just didn't have any guidance or mentorship who could help me really start to explore nature. And so television, that's where it was. And that's where I started to get my initial kind of leanings for, could I do something bigger and better with nature? But I'll tell you, the answer right away for me was no, you can't. You can't afford to do that. Only rich people can be National Geographic photographers. Only rich people can go off on big adventures. You're not going to be able to do any of that. I lived with that in my head for many, many years. I was convinced that, that was the quote, only rich people do that. You can't. And so watching Jacques Cousteau or Tarzan and dreaming, I would also then have this other lack of guidance in the background. So the infrastructure around me, I guess I'm going a long way around saying that the infrastructure around me was non-existent. There wasn't an infrastructure around me. I had to create my own infrastructure within which I could then grow and go towards the things I wanted to do. And part of that, as I got a little bit older, was reading. Nobody else was going to teach me how to navigate this life. Maybe I can read. And I did start to read. And a sentence here, a sentence there, paragraph here, a paragraph there, and you're like, oh, that really resonates with me. A lot of things don't resonate with you, but that's not, if you're watching an hour show and if only one thing I've said in this whole interview connects with you, then that's it, that one thing. And that's important. So one sentence in a book, might be all the reason why you needed to read that book. So that's what I had to do, was to look at the fact that I had no infrastructure. It took me a while. As I said, big thing about guidance and mentorship is save your time. When older people are helping you get to where you want to go, it can save time. When they aren't and no one is, you have to figure it out yourself. It takes a long time. I'm a late bloomer in everything I've ever done because I lost years trying to figure out how to move forward. I just refused. So within the negative infrastructure, if you will, that I grew up in, I had to refuse to accept that negative infrastructure. I refused to say, oh yeah, this is me. I'm just going to get this crappy job in this crappy factory and work with these crappy people in this crappy neighborhood. Instead of that, I just said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I know there's more I can do. And it took me a while to figure out how, but I just kept telling myself that. And it's difficult when you're surrounded by an infrastructure that's a bit dark and and not a fun infrastructure, to have your own infrastructure that's got to live in here until you're old enough, really, in many ways, to break free. And then your own small infrastructure becomes your larger infrastructure, and you make things happen.
All right, Les, can you tell us what your mission is now? Where do you see yourself from this point on going towards the future? How are you going to reach that goal?
Important question. My mission and my next mission. So I want to elaborate by talking a bit about having a mission. It is true. Having a mission is very, very helpful because you know the end goal. That's your mission. That's your end goal. But knowing what it is not always easy. And a lot of people don't know until they're in their 20s. Some don't know until they're in their 30s, 40s. It can take a while. So I don't want anybody ever feeling bad because they're 17 years old or 14 years old or 19 years old and they don't have a mission. They don't know what they want to do. That's more normal than anything. Not knowing what you want to do in life is more normal when you're younger than knowing what you want to do. And I think that's really important. I say that I love nature. That's all I could say about my youth and nature. I didn't say like I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a goal. I just loved nature. You know, when I discovered music, I didn't have a goal. I just loved music. And then as I grew older, so I thought, well, maybe I can be a rock star, you know, and then at one point, maybe I should be an outdoor guide. Like stuff starts coming to you. So my mission really throughout my life is just as things come to me. And what I did discover, I think what you discover in yourself as you get a bit older is you discover where your gifts lie. And when I say gifts, I just simply mean the stuff you're good at, the stuff that's in your wheelhouse. There's going to be, no matter what, 2 or 3 things that you're good at. And you might not know what they are yet. And they might not be what you think they are. And I'm not talking about playing guitar or driving a car or building a house. I just mean some sort of thing that you feel so comfortable. It's your wheelhouse, man. You feel so comfortable doing that. And I didn't know what mine was. I just knew for a while I knew what I loved. Then I began to know what I wanted to do with what I loved. And then I began to discover my role, my gifts, my wheelhouse within doing those things. So what am I good at here? Well, I discovered that for me, the biggest mission I've had for the longest time, every Survivorman episode I've ever done, first of all, I would start it off with the right intention. I'd sit by the water, the lake, and I'd say, okay, whatever I'm going to do today, let it be inspiring for people and let it bring about a positive influence in people's lives. That's how I set every Survivorman in motion, with that kind of little mantra. It's not so much a mission. That's more like a daily kind of keep yourself on track kind of thing. Keep your feet grounded. Set your intentions properly. The mission gets a little bigger. And my mission was always really simple: to connect people to nature. That's it. Survivorman, survival skills, outdoor adventure, whitewater canoeing, the books I write, the music I make, the films I make, they're all just what I would call facilitation. They facilitate the mission for me, which has been, can I connect you to nature? Can I get you reconnected to nature? Can I have you fall in love with nature again? That's became my mission. In many ways, moving forward, what's my mission now? I don't know that that's ever going to change for the rest of my life, because that's what I love the most. I love, getting people connected to nature. It's not an easy mission. It's a difficult one, in fact. But if you're defining a mission as your goals, well, that's different. That's where I look again. I come back to, well, what have I become good at? I think I'm a good songwriter. I think I'm a good performer. I have more music to make. I think I'm a good writer. I just wrote a new book called Wild Outside, which is for 7 to ostensibly 15-year-olds. And so I know I like writing. So that's another goal. I'll keep writing. And I love being a filmmaker, and I've done very well at that. So another goal will be to keep making films, and as well as stuff that doesn't have anything to do with nature. I might just pick a different thing and just to have some fun. So for me, goals, missions, that thing you're trying to get to, it's important, but you can't force it. None of anything that I'm talking about can you force. It's all got to be stuff that comes natural, and you got to use your instincts to see how you feel. And if I could speak on that for one more minute, I would say that if you think about 2 or 3 options in front of you, things you could do, 2 or 3 ways to answer a question, 2 or 3 goals you could do, and you really sit there and you try hard to imagine yourself at the end of goal number 1. How do you feel? You a little tense. Do the same thing for goal number 2. How do you feel? I don't feel anything. The same thing for goal number 1. Oh, I feel like I kind of relaxed. Or goal number 3. That probably means that last one where you tried to relax, where you relaxed, when you thought of it, when you put yourself there. That's your instinct, I believe, saying, that's the right one, man. That's the right move to make. That's the way. This one over here, look how tense it makes you feel. Yeah, it's worth more money. Yeah, but you feel crappy about it. This one here in the middle, you don't feel anything. So it might be good, or it might not be. Look at, as soon as you put yourself in the goal of being an outdoor adventure film producer, producing these films about nature, my whole body relaxes. And I think, yeah, that's where I need to be.
It's time in the show for a commercial break. Sit back and relax and listen to a message from Wild Harvest.
These are the foothills of the Rocky Mountains just outside of Calgary, Alberta. And it is astoundingly beautiful. The fact is, you can also eat a lot of it. My job is to gather, dig up, search for, pick, hunt, fish, and forage just about everything I can get in this location. This truly is the essence of the Wild Harvest.
Well, we're back from break with our special guest, Les Stroud. He's Survivorman. This is my favorite part of the show, where I get to ask Les the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What's your passion behind it, and how does it fit in your life?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you see, the reality of connecting to land, I say connecting to nature, is absolutely vital. There's, you know, if you just sit in a room with someone and talk with somebody who has a different sensibility, let's say they're not concerned. Let's say the 17 to them are like, whatever, they're too busy leading their lives or whatever. For me, focusing primarily on the environment, on especially, I know you've got one under the water as well. So especially wildlife and the creatures. That's a big thing to my heart. It's a big connection for me. But really, if we look at it and say, well, tell me if we can live without air. Well, we know the answer to that question, right? Okay, fine. So we all agree that we can't live without air, right? 3 minutes, maybe. Okay, good. All right. How long can you live without water? 4 or 5 days, 7, 8 days, and you're not going to be alive after that. So can we all agree that we need water to live? Okay, we all agree we need water to live. So now we know we need air. We know we need water. The land. Can we all agree that we need the soil to grow the food that sustains us? Okay, good. We all agree. We need air, water, and soil. So my contention is what we need is clean air, clean water, and clean soil. And as I said, the 17 that you have there, there's a beautiful broad spectrum of how they touch life. For me, what resonates always goes back to what I was saying about finding where your wheelhouse is, where your passions lay, where your gifts are. So if you were to ask me to focus on the economy or the economics of a certain region, I'm going to be terrible at it. And I can intellectualize it, and intellectually I can work on it. I can try hard, but in the end, it's not my thing. It doesn't resonate with me in a way that I can just jump right in. But when you talk to me about clean air, clean water, clean soil, or the creatures of this earth, both the insects and the birds and the wildlife, the mammals and the ocean, now you've got me. Now, this is the area of life that Les Stroud can't avoid in his psyche. That's where it would be like, oh, we're going to sit and talk about this. We're going to sit and work some things through. We're going to help. I'm in. I can jump in head first.
So how does a cause get Survivorman's attention?
Wildlife, the mammals, and the ocean. Now you've got me. Now this is the area of life that Les Stroud can't avoid in his psyche. That's where it would be like, oh, we're going to sit and talk about this. We're going to sit and work some things through. We're going to help. I'm in. I can jump in head first.
Well, time has really flown by tonight, Les. I really appreciate sitting down talking to you about the environment, about Survivorman, your background. It's been fantastic. But before you go, could you give our audience and my students some words of encouragement, advice, wisdom, or inspiration? I'd really love to have your input on that.
That's a big ask in many ways, isn't it?
Yes.
And without turning this into the next 45 minutes of speaking, I know that there have been times that I spoke to schools, large groups, and so on, and I can that one question alone can easily take up the 45 minutes sort of thing. I think I'm glad I was able to start with my own background, because there are those who are listening to me right now who come from wonderful families, wonderful parents, privileged backgrounds where things are available to them, whether it be financially or whether it be access. They're enabled to go places and see things and do things. And there will be others that are kind of in the middle. They get some advantages, but nothing special. And there are others that just don't have the opportunity for almost anything. And it's always tricky just to get anything to happen. What I learned through moving forward with my life, it's a couple of key points here. And again, it's tempting for me to talk for like a long time on this. But a couple of key points I'd love you to keep in mind as you get older, as you grow, as you get into life. The life within the school system, for example, public school system, private school, is not the same as the life after. It's a different ecosystem. It's a different world. You really get an opportunity. If the school system is not working so well for you, don't worry so much, because you'll get your opportunity comes. I did not do well in the school system. I did graduate, but barely. It was after school when I blossomed, if you will, when I saw what was possible for me. But it was very difficult. So if you're kind of just hanging on, good, hang on, finish, complete, which is another lesson, the joy of completion. When you start something, complete it. It's a big deal in life. You can start a lot of things. I was much older when I learned that lesson. If you start something, complete it. Now, this goes back to the instinct and what roads you might want to go down. Let's say you pick a road to go down because you think you want to go down that road. And then you start making some commitments while you're going down. You're going to do this thing. You get a ways in and you realize, I hate this. This is just, it's nothing like I thought it was going to be. Okay. That's no problem. And listen carefully, because I'm not suggesting that quitting is a good thing. What I'm suggesting is, okay, realizing you're on the wrong road, however, is a very important thing. So when you realize you're on the wrong road, and there's one or two commitments in there you've made, finish those commitments, finish those at least, and then say, thanks, but no thanks. I thought this was going to work out for me, but I want to go over here now. And there could be 6 other laneways, so you're trying things out as you go. I tried many laneways, and again, it's not that I would go down and then just quit. That's different. You can start lots of things and just quit lots of things. That's not the same thing as trying lots of things. And if you get partially down that road, you realize it's maybe not for you, and you need to adjust. You need to shift. That's different. And another point in this, as you grow and move forward, and you'll see this a lot. I think no matter what your background is, wonderful or somewhat negative. And again, mine was somewhat negative. Remember that your instincts are so strong. You may be surrounded, however, by people that we use the word toxic. That might be, or maybe there's one person that's toxic. You learn as you grow older to start to move away from toxic people, toxic situations. That's really important to do. As long as you stay in a toxic, it's sort of a strong word, I get it, but if you stay in a negative or toxic situation, you're just in it. My neighborhood was like that. In fact, now I go back there, and if I see one of the old buddies, what do they all say? Stroud, you're the one that got out, right? That's what they always say when you break from a toxic situation. But when you're in it, they don't want you to leave. Oh, you're too good for us now, right? They want to hold you down. They want to keep you from going where you know you want to go. So remember that can be a thing, and pay attention to that. People, toxic people, same thing there. You know, you can feel in your heart if people support you or don't, or if someone supports you or don't. And there's a difference between somebody giving you constructive criticism or just criticizing you. There's a big difference there. And constructive criticism is, well, I like what you're doing, Les, but did you ever think of trying it this way? That's constructive criticism. Criticism is, that's stupid. That's criticism, and it's harsh. And you know, it could be anybody, to be honest with you. You may all have wonderful, loving parents, but it could be a parent. It could be a sister. It could be a brother. It could be your best friend you've had for 5 years. It could be a teacher. It could be anyone that doesn't support the real you and who you are. I almost had nobody in my high school years that you know, it's really hard. I had a couple of close friends, but you know, again, I had to break from everything. So these are things to think about as you listen. Adults have to do this too. By the way, these points I'm giving, they never grow stale. This isn't something you're going to do at 12 years old or 16 or 19 and say, did that, I'm done now. Oh no, it's a constant thing. I'm always on the lookout for people around me that might be a little bit toxic to me and think, you know, I don't think I'm going to go hang with that person anymore. I thought I liked them, but man, oh man, you know, or you know what? I'm really uncomfortable here and I haven't been enjoying this. I need to move or get out of this place, you know, sort of thing. And I'm not talking about running away from anything. Oh no, I'm talking about recognizing you're in the wrong place around the wrong people, and you know better in your own self where you could be, or you want to at least go find where you could be. So I guarantee you one thing, when you break from a toxic situation, you don't normally usually jump right into another toxic situation. Often you find people who, especially if they don't know you from that over there, who are like, hey, that's a really good idea. Can I help you with that? Or can I join you? And they want to support you, sort of thing. So these are things that are really important to me moving forward. I have to tell myself these same lessons all the time. And just remember that your little ideas inside you are worthwhile. If you think something's a good idea, it probably is a good idea, no matter what anybody else says. Now, the rest is up to timing and right place, right time and stuff like that. But those ideas you have, what you want to do and where you want to be, they're all very real. And, you know, as I said, I came from ostensibly not much. I wouldn't say nothing, but certainly not much. And I've traveled the world. So, you know, yeah, that's my words of wisdom and advice, if you will, for moving forward.
I don't think there'd be any argument on the statement that you are one of the biggest outdoor advocates that there is.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of people spending free time in nature, doing nothing. Now, I'm a huge supporter of the Scouts, for example, and I'm a supporter of adventure courses and things, and all these things are great. But when you get past the ropes courses and the rock climbing and the first aid skills and the shelter, but you get all past, just sit in nature. And I think we busy ourselves up out there and we get focused on, we make nature a backdrop to go paddling. We make nature a backdrop to run. We make nature a backdrop for this but there's got to be a time where it's no longer the backdrop. You're just in nature, just with it, just being there. And I would count walking your dogs, that part of that. That's okay, because it's very but not much more than that activity kind of thing, you know, just be in nature.
Well, Les, I can't let you survive this interview without at least taking an opportunity to ask you about your new book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman. Can you tell us what your inspiration was behind this book?
So for many years, kids of all ages have been watching Survivorman. I used to get kids send me photographs of themselves dressed up as Survivorman for Halloween. That's when I knew I'd landed. It's like, oh, that's cool. You know, you don't need better vindication than that. So I wasn't worried about all of the instruction and all the things that I've been giving resonating with kids. I just knew it did. Wild Outside, this new book gave me the opportunity to speak directly to the kids. So now instead of them watching Survivorman, you know, which I just made in a sort of an adult world and loving it, and so many kids do watch it with their dad or their mom or their uncles and aunts and everybody. Now I was able to say, I'm going to just speak directly to you. Let's just keep the adults out of this. This is between Survivorman and the kids themselves. It's ages about 7 to 15 is pretty appropriate, it seems. And it's filled with activities they can do at home. It's filled with all kinds of lessons, and everything bounces off of 12 of some of my greatest adventurous stories. I got chased up a tree by a moose. I was face to face with a jaguar and face to face with a Canadian lynx. Those are all animal stories, but also I got hypothermia going down a mountain in Norway. All those stories are in the book, and I use those adventurous stories to teach lessons of how to be in the wilderness and how to adventure, and then also to deliver some take-home stuff that they can do after they finish reading that chapter.
How does your book help the inner city kid, the kid that is not around Yosemite National Park, Sequoia National Park, a state park?
The book very much points out that you don't need to go to Peru and the Andes to have adventure. It's right in your backyard. So even if you are even inner city, like I say this, you live in New York, you can always go to Central Park. There's always ravines, parks, neighborhood parks, someone else's backyard. If you live in an apartment, there's always a place you can go experience nature, even in the city. So let me know how that goes.
Some of our viewers are huge fans of yours, and they wanted me to ask you, when you were in difficult situations in nature, whether it's wildlife or climate, what did you do to fight through the fear? What was your process?
Well, the fear, the only time I felt a lot of fear, I'm always nervous around the big cats. So I was up a tree because of a Bengal tiger. It was in lion territory. But the scaredest I ever was when a big bull moose chased me up a tree. So that's the time when fear gripped me. Now, what did I do? And then the other times, I didn't let fear grip me so much. So in both situations, what did I do? In the situation where I remained calm, it was, I either had the time or I took the time to do a couple of things. Number one, you calm down. Number two, you invoke the Survivorman zones of assessment. And that's where you think, okay, what do I have on my body? What's with me? What have I got? Okay, what's beside me? What can I use and what's further afield? Oh, there's a cabin over there. And now you do these zones of assessment. Now I have information. And with that information, number three, you make a decision. And you know that's the best decision you can make because you've assessed everything that's going on. When that didn't happen for me was when I got chased by a moose up a tree. And that caught me off guard. I was running for my life. When I was up in the tree and he was down below breaking other trees, that's when I did the very same thing again. Calm down, do my assessment. How can I get back to my canoe? All that sort of stuff. Make a decision. I need to jump now and go. So those three things, calming down, making a proactive decision based on gathering the information and acting on that decision. Actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. Those three things, which are calming down, gathering all the information, and then making a decision based on that information. Those three things get you out of they'll get you out of everything.
Well, Les, it's been great to interview you. Before you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think it's just my honor to be able to be here and to be able to talk like this. And I don't like giving kids you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want kind of platitudes, real simple, easy stuff to say. I like to give them actual tools to work with, to see your way through. But I just would remind you, but I would close by reminding you of this. I came from a very disadvantaged place as a youth, and I got to where I got on my own steam. And so that is the one time I will say, and you can too, no matter what.
Well, Les, thank you for being on tonight's show. I appreciate you spending so much time with us. I wanted to let you know that I think your words are spot on, and they're going to be very beneficial to a lot of our audience and my students.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor and privilege to be able to speak those words. I don't get the opportunities often, and I like to, because the main thing, as I said, I had no mentorship or guidance, zero. So when I can give it, right or wrong, it's still coming from me. It's still my opinion. But when I can give it, I'm honored.
Yes, I wanted to thank you very much for being on our show tonight. Survivorman made it through all of my questions, and he came out okay. But in reality, sir, thank you very much for the kind words that you gave to our audience and my students. I'm very appreciative, and good luck on your future. I hope we meet again.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, everyone.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you'd like to learn more on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or would like to teach more in your class, please go to teachsdgs.org. Thank you for watching tonight's episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the 17 and Me Show.